I've just come back from Paris from the world's biggest aesthetic and skin conference. I mean, it had over 20,000 doctors there. They definitely oversubscribed. It was literally like being in London's Winter Wonderland at peak time on a Saturday where you can literally not move. But nevertheless, it was a really good conference, and it's literally where everyone from all over the world comes to discuss the latest data, research, evidence, and we get a snippet of the best new treatments to come. So in this video, I want to talk to you about the brand new Toxin or Botox that's coming to the UK this year. It's already in Spain and in Germany, and it's starting in the States as well, but it's coming to the UK, and we're going to be one of the first people to use it this year in April, May time. It's the world's first new toxin or Botox that can last up to 1 year, and it is the absolute purest form of botulinum toxin. Now this is really exciting because I actually got to meet the chemist, the scientist, the absolute big brains behind all of this, and I got to geek out with him at the chemistry stand. You can see me here. And the other thing that was really exciting to help launch this event at their big parties and at the big lectures was the founding woman. She's a female doctor who was the founding woman of botulinum toxin as we know it today. It is by far the biggest aesthetic and skin treatment done to date across the world, and she was the woman who discovered it, and I got to meet her. So this woman, her name is Dr. Carruthers. She is the founding mother of upper face, or generally botulinum toxin as we know it. So she was on stage giving a little bit of a story about how botulinum toxin was discovered. So botulinum toxin was around, and it was used for a few minor medical procedures, like people that had spasticity in their muscles or cerebral palsy, but generally the medical community was terrified of this molecule. Carruthers, this amazing woman, had lots of patients who had something that we call blepharospasm. Sometimes this can be so bad that people can't even open their eyes. And she described this amazing story of how she discovered that you can actually use botulinum toxin, how we all use it today, every day, to reduce fine lines and wrinkles in the upper face. She had a patient who she was like, look, you can barely open your eyes. Let me try a little bit of this botulinum toxin on you because I want to relax the muscle and see if your eyes can open. Now this lady, she used to come into her office every couple of weeks for some sort of treatment with her husband who would help her walk in because she couldn't see. And then one day she agreed to try a bit of the botulinum toxin. A couple of weeks later, she came back and she was walking on her own through the office into her clinic room, and literally Dr. Carruthers broke down in tears that day. And even when she was saying this lecture 50 years later in Paris a few weeks ago, she also broke down on stage. And it was just so heartwarming and so sweet to see, you know, how someone as clever as her and as inventive as her is so connected to her patients, because everything that we do, everything doctors do, is all about their patients, and it was just beautiful to see. So then, this is how it was discovered, that you can use it for sort of strong blepharospasms or just blepharospasms generally. But then this patient came back a few months later and said, well, actually my eyes are still okay, but what I really liked about the treatment was that all my lines around here and here disappeared. Could you use a little bit more? And then so began the research and all the trials for utilizing botulinum toxin for upper face fine lines and wrinkles. And then these were finally approved in the late 80s. Now fast forward to 2025. We have the birth of the world's newest, purest and longest lasting botulinum toxin about to hit the UK market. I am beyond excited. It's literally going to change the face of clinical practice as we know it when it comes to botulinum toxin or Botox. So why is this one so different? This botulinum toxin has been in development and research for the last 15 years. It has its own multi-million-dollar lab in Uppsala in Sweden, where scientists have been working relentlessly to make the purest form of Botox. Now, why is that even important? Like, why do we need the purest form? Well, actually, a lot of botulinum toxin have added ingredients in them to stabilize them in their powder form, which we then reconstitute with normal saline. Now, that powder form is stabilized oftentimes in most cases using human albumin, or in some cases animal proteins. This newest one that's being released this year has none of that. It is the absolute purest form of botulinum toxin. They have mastered the science to keep it in its pure form all the way from where they got it in the soil and purified it. It's a really fragile ingredient. It is the same amount of proteins in the botulinum toxin as there are in a pearl. So it's a really dense, really strong molecule, but it's super fragile. So these scientists have been working relentlessly to make it so that it can be suspended in this water or saline liquid, and that is how it's delivered to the doctor, and then that is how it's delivered to the patient, which means in theory we possibly have to then use less of it, and you don't have to come back in to have as much of it done sort of every 3 to 6 months. This can last up to a year. So I got to meet the chemist, the scientist, the brain behind this new botulinum toxin, and he got to show me the different stages of the production of this botulinum toxin, and here you can see him showing me one of those stages. Now this is really exciting. We're going to be one of the first people to use it, and I just felt really excited to be somewhere where I was seeing someone like Dr. Carruthers, who was the mastermind behind bringing botulinum toxin into the clinical arena, and then now I was with the scientist who has completely re-revolutionized the face of botulinum toxin again. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any other questions, then please drop a comment below.